Hello and welcome to Shri IAS. My name is Shashank Roy, and there is another news topic for you. USS Tripoli heading towards the Strait of Hormuz. So the war is going to be extended, and escalation ladder is higher now. So USS Tripoli is one of the fastest moving and one of the most capable aircraft carrier US have. So now US is going to take this aircraft carrier with 8,000 Marines and commandos to control and clear the Strait of Hormuz, which was blocked by Iran. So now get set ready for a new phase of war and new escalation ladder in this entire war between Israel, USA on one side and Iran on other side. Let's understand the geography first, because geography determines a lot of things. This is the image of USS Tripoli, one of the biggest warship US have, and with 8,000 commando and marines they are moving towards the Strait of Hormuz to make it clear and stop the oil blockade at Strait of Hormuz. First of all, let's do some mapping. Whenever whenever an area is in the news again and again, please go back to Oxford or Orient Black Swan address or go to Google image and do the mapping. Always look at the location from the perspective of latitude and longitude. Though Tropic of Cancer is here, that passes to Saudi Arabia. Tropic of Cancer is just beneath the Strait of Hormuz. Have a look at Iran, right? Here you can have the location. This is the political map. This is political map, and this is the physical map. Always when whenever there is a location in the news again and again, please go for the mapping. Look at the Google image and map it, right? Look at political mapping and geographical mapping. So this is the political mapping and geographical mapping. If you look at Iran, Iran is shielded. Iran is shielded from all sides through mountain ranges such as Zagros mountain ranges. It works like a shield from in Persian Gulf, and there is Elbrus mountain on the northern side, and there is Dastelut and Daste Kavir, the deserted area. So if you look at Iran's location, on two sides they are surrounded by mountain ranges, and on two sides they are surrounded by deserted areas. So this makes it difficult for other countries or invaders to enter into Iran and capture it without any without any protest or without any resistance. So Iran is gifted with a geography which is difficult to conquer, and that's the reason US didn't allow the boots on the ground. Means US didn't allow or deployed US soldiers on the Iranian ground, because they have seen what had happened in Afghanistan, what had happened in different parts of the world when their troops were not trained for a particular terrain, and Iran is one such area. Now let's look at the core development. The US is deploying 8,000 personnel, marine and naval forces to West Asia. The focus area is the Strait of Hormuz, because the Strait of Hormuz is an important choke point, and it's also an important sea lanes of communication, SLOC, which is which is controlled by United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. UPSC has already asked this question related to United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. So the core idea is to focus area Strait of Hormuz. The objective is secure global shipping routes and counter Iranian disruption. Why Hormuz matters? Because the world's 20% global oil passes through Strait of Hormuz. If you wish, you can make a Strait of Hormuz mapping as well. Your concept will be clear. This is Hormuz. This is Oman, and Oman on one side, and this is Persian Gulf. Right? So this is the connecting point. Hormuz is connecting point between Persian Gulf and Oman. This is an important. Approximately 20% of the global oil passes. 20% of the global oil passes through Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the global oil passes through Strait of Hormuz. Okay, give me a second. So this is how you have to remember things. Any disruption, if the Strait of Hormuz will be disrupted, it will lead to escalation in oil prices, fluctuation in oil prices, and it will create an energy crisis across the world, especially countries in Asia. So oil prices will surge, global economic instability will be there, and this is not the regional, this is the global economic flashpoint. So Strait of Hormuz is a classic example of a conflict, geopolitical, geoeconomic and geostrategic conflict. Is that clear? Strait of Hormuz is a classic example of geopolitical, geoeconomic and geostrategic conflict in the world affairs. So that's why Hormuz matters. Now what is this to US strategy? US strategy is to control the choke point. Why? Because US has used because Iran has used this choke point as a leverage. Why leverage? Leverage means by controlling Strait of Hormuz, Iran is controlling and disturbing the entire oil supply. When the oil supply will be disturbed, the oil price will fluctuate. European countries are not great in terms of oil resources. They are dependent for oil. They are dependent on Middle East countries, on USA and on Russia. Russia is under sanction. They get 40% of their oil from Russia, which is completely under sanction. So now they are dependent on USA and Middle East. So by leveraging Hormuz as a choke point, what Iran is doing, Iran is putting pressure on the world powers. Iran is depriving them or starving them out of energy, and this is why US has deployed this vessel to control this choke point. Marines and naval assets have been deployed. The aim is to ensure freedom of navigation, deter Iranian aggression, and the classic doctrine of USA is control critical sea lanes and control global leverage. This is what Iran was doing. This is what Iran was doing, and now USA is using the same doctrine, control the global shipping lanes and control the global leverage. What China is doing in South China Sea is also a part of that. South China Sea is located at the mouth of Strait of Malacca, and China knows that if Strait of Malacca can be closed, the entire Southeast Asia and East Asia will be starved of energy. So in future, China might use the Strait of Malacca or South China Sea as a leverage. Next is Iran's position. What is Iran's position with regards to Hormuz? Iran says Iran is using as a strategic leverage to put pressure on US and its allies and disturb and control the energy sector. Likely responsibility, it may threaten closure. It is already closed. It may target shipping, which is already done. So the strategy is asymmetric pressure on global economy. Iran cannot fight USA in a man-to-man combat. No, not at all. Iran has no capability or no wherewithal to fight USA, the kind of army, navy and air force US has developed. But there is an asymmetric warfare. There is an asymmetric warfare. Asymmetric warfare means that even a smaller player, even a smaller opponent is inflicting great damage to a world superpower like USA. This is what asymmetric warfare. Now, global implication. What will be the global implication of this war at Strait of Hormuz? Energy security crisis will take place. Oil supply will get disrupted. Price volatility will be there. India has already increased 2 rupees per liter on diesel and petrol. Now, economic shock waves will be there. Inflation risk will be there, and supply chain disruptions will take place, which is already there. Now, military escalation risk. Naval confrontation may lead to direct US-Iran conflict and wider regional warfare. Maybe after this USS Tripoli reaching Strait of Hormuz, some other Middle East countries may join the bandwagon, such as Kuwait, Bahrain, right, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. They might join the bandwagon of USA in attacking Iran, and if that happens, then the problem will be severe. Then there is a possibility that China and Russia might come in open to support Iran and safeguard Iran. Because China has greater interest in safeguarding Iran, because China's 88% oil comes from Iran. Russia, if Iran is collapsed, Russia's boundaries will be vulnerable for US invasion or NATO forces invasion in future. So Russia and China might come in open to defend Iranian territory. Next is why allies are cautious. Europe already stretched due to Russia-Ukraine war. So let's look at this one. Let's look at NATO. Now NATO is running out of resources. Why? Because NATO is already supporting Ukraine. NATO is already supporting Ukraine-Russia war. Its fourth year. Now there is another front in Hormuz, at Hormuz, between USA and Iran. If, God forbid, there may be a possibility of the same kind of conflict in Taiwan, or there may be a conflict in East China Sea to divert the attention or to divert the resources of USA into East China. There may be a conflict between North Korea and South Korea, and there's a full possibility for that. So NATO is already thin, and NATO says, Pentagon says that they need $200 billion, 200 billion US dollars to support this war. Within 3 weeks of time, USA has already spent $18 billion US dollars in this war. This is an asymmetric warfare. US is losing more despite being the world superpower, and Iran is in a capacity to inflict more damages on US allies, US assets, and Israeli territories. So, why allies are cautious? Allies are cautious because there is already Russia-Ukraine war going on. There may be another war which will stretch the resources of NATO and European countries. Opening another war front, energy dependency on Middle East will be disturbed, and limited Western support beyond USA. So US, European powers may not support Iran or USA completely in this war. Now, strategic interpretation, what it means, what is the hidden objective or the intention of Donald Trump. This is not just troop deployment. It shows US willingness to escalate control, Iran's ability to challenge the global system, and the conflict is geoeconomics plus military plus energy politics. Now, the problem with the United States of America is that US cannot have an humiliating exit. US cannot have a humiliating exit, whereas Iran has every reason to attack USA directly, indirectly, or through its allies. Now, USA also wants Russia or China to intervene in this matter, but they may or may not intervene. They may not intervene or support, mediate in this war, because Russia and China want US to be completely exhausted in this war, so that, you know what, in this war, Russia and China will definitely want US to be exhausted. Why exhausted? Because if US is exhausted, it will be better for Russia to capture Ukraine or negotiate Ukraine in a hard way, and it will be better for China if China launches an offensive against Taiwan. So the resources of the USA will be completely thinned, destroyed, evaporated, exhausted, and US will not be in a position to move into another war. On US land, or US citizens are already opposing this war, that this is not the US war, this is a war of Israel that US is fighting. So there is already protest going on across USA. In fact, the Congress or the senators are opposing this war that Donald Trump has got, entangled in this war played by Israel. So this is it. US willingness to escalate control, Iran's ability to challenge global system, whereas, so the idea is geoeconomics, military plus energy politics is going on with regards to Strait of Hormuz. Now the final takeaway is Hormuz is the world's most sensitive choke point. US move shows preventing disruption, and Iran response is key uncertainty. So this is what is going on. Iran would love US decision to come near Strait of Hormuz, because if they go near Strait of Hormuz, Iran will be in a capacity to inflict heavy damages on US warships and US resources. Again, the war will be escalated further. The damage will be higher. US is already losing this war. US has spent $18 billion US dollar in 3 weeks of war and spending $11,000 per second in this war. So let's see, what's going on, and keep an eye on all these news updates. Keep an eye on this channel, and I'll keep on updating you with the new topics. Thank you so much. Wish you a wonderful day ahead. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.